check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
I'm finding myself offended by what it is that the league has done in a time, the National Football League, in a time of catastrophe. The Miami Dolphins, Tampa Bay Bucks were supposed to play this week, and a hurricane is headed to South Florida. I've never seen South Florida this scared. It's a zombie apocalypse out, people fighting over supplies, people evacuating, streets are crazy. It is a state of emergency in Florida because of Hurricane Irma.
It's still 4 or 5 days out, I guess they're saying, and you're right. Like, you go to a gas station anywhere down here in South Florida, and people are yelling at each other. People are getting in fights.
South Florida is usually a place, and the Key West especially, where we shrug off these things. Big hurricane, big deal. I slept through Hurricane Andrew, which did real devastation here in South Florida. I've never been scared of a hurricane before. This is the first time that, and I don't know whether it's Houston and all those pictures on my screen or what is happening in my surroundings. Regardless, it is a scary time in South Florida. And in the midst of that, the NFL has decided to cancel the game. And in so doing, they have, because Tampa and Miami had the same bye week in week 11, Miami is now going to go 7 straight weeks without a home game. And on top of that, they are going to play their season, and the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to play their season without a bye. And the reason this is offensive to me is if you actually care about the health of your players, you can't go 16 straight weeks without a bye. The bye is your admission that this is unhealthy. We need to give some guys some rest. The math suggests that when you have more rest, that you play better, that your team's record is better. Teams coming off a bye week have a better record. And so what you have in the NFL is basically what I believe to be a need for 5, 6, 7 byes. And I want to ask Adam Schefter why the football season can't go till March.
Right.
If to put priority first, safety, when we know that these guys getting rest helps their body. Instead, we go the other way with greed. Whatever the players get in terms of health, with the bye week, they take away with these Thursday night games where they're asking them greedily to play inadequate football that is unhealthier than regular football on 3 or 4 days rest.
You got me thinking here, man, because take the hurricane out of it, take the weather out of it. The fact that there is just only one bye week, as it stands right now, is confusing if indeed you care about player safety, which I don't believe the NFL does. I think they like to give the appearance that they do, but they don't actually care.
No, see, but you're being an absolutist there. I think they do care about safety more than they ever have. I just don't think it's the priority. And they're telling us it's the priority. And that's where I object. When you tell me it's health first, and then greed gets in the way of health. That's where I draw the line on that one. We'll get to all of that over the course of the show, but this is what I want to ask you. I know that many of you in our audience are tired of Colin Kaepernick talk. I have learned recently that mostly it's white people who are tired of Colin Kaepernick talk. Black people not so tired of the idea that this is still in the news and that basically the networks are making you look at it. The networks are forcing you to look at this thing that white people might not want to look at anymore. They certainly don't want to talk about it. But this is what I want to ask you as it relates to that subject, because I wonder if this conversation is one that white people will find more palatable. Not that palatability is one of the priorities on this subject, because discomfort is what should be caused by this country's history of pain among white people and sin. But what I want to ask you, and the way I want to frame this, is differently, because I now understand better, based on the information that I have, why the Ravens did not sign him. The Ravens were more honest than any organization has been. They were more publicly transparent than any organization has been, with the owner putting his voice on Pray For Us, and all that got them was they became the face of this blackballing because they were more honest about it than anybody else. But then, Ray Lewis, did you see what happened here recently with Ray Lewis? What he said was the reason that the Ravens, and he's more qualified than most because he's got the owner's ear, the reason the Ravens did not sign Colin Kaepernick.
I have heard their reasons for not signing him. Yes.
Ray Lewis saying what their reasons are.
Yeah, that he was meeting with the owner, that they were flying Colin Kaepernick in, that the owner wanted to hear Kaepernick say that he wanted to play football, and the girlfriend released a picture. She flip-flopped the faces from a scene out of Django Unchained.
Right.
And the owner and Ray Lewis said, forget it, you know?
Okay, and given that while they were considering signing him, his girlfriend put on Twitter a reference that made Ray Lewis look like an Uncle Tom, like Samuel Jackson's character in Django, and made the owner of the team look like Leonardo DiCaprio, the slave owner in Django Unchained. I get why the Ravens bailed. I understand it. Like at that point right there, where, wait a minute, at the height of we're dating, this is when we're going to get serious about our relationship. We're willing to take all the risks involved with this, even though I don't think there are many risks involved. They think there are many risks involved. So they're willing to take all the risks. And then the girlfriend does that. I get why that would be the tipping point on nuking the whole thing. But what I want to ask you guys is, because in this instance, I'm siding against Kaepernick and the behavior of his girlfriend during a sensitive time, does that make this conversation more palatable to you? Like, if you're sick of the subject, are you really sick of the subject, or you're sick of the way that people are talking about the subject? Are you sick that more people aren't, you don't think, coming down hard enough on Kaepernick or arguing on behalf of the reasons that he's out of the league? Does it make it more palatable to you? Because then it makes me ask you to check your biases, if that's the case, to look in the mirror on this stuff, because I take these all case by case. I know many of you think I hate white people. You think I'm racist. I try to be fair at every turn, and I get why at the end the Ravens bailed on that. And I get specifically the girlfriend's influence publicly. You cannot have Miko Grimes around Colin Kaepernick. You can't have that situation. It's hard enough to keep Brent Grimes on your roster when his wife is doing that kind of behavior in public.
But he's on a roster, Dan.
I know, but he's been cut from rosters, too.
That's true.
Because of his wife.
But you could argue that Kaepernick is better at what he does than Grimes is at what he does. You could make that argument.
Could you?
And the position's more important. You could make that argument.
I think they're about the same. I mean, I could certainly argue on behalf that the quarterback position is more valuable than the cornerback position, but I don't know that Kaepernick is any better at what he does than Brent Grimes is or has been at what he does.
I think what's being said, I think it's a combination. People are just tired of it, and some people are tired of what's being said. Yes, so I think you saying, hey, you understand why the Ravens wouldn't sign Colin Kaepernick, I think a lot of people will be pleased to hear that coming out of your mouth.
I just think I understand why.
I don't know if you like that, and you're like your allies on that.
But what I'm saying, though, on this particular subject is I can see where the Baltimore owner is saying to himself, I've just put myself out there publicly, and now the report is that my football people want him and that I'm hesitant. So the billionaire is hesitant. The billionaire is trying publicly to be honest about this, saying, pray for us, I'm trying to decide. And as he's trying to decide, he gets the information sent to him. Hey, look at what Colin Kaepernick's girlfriend just did. She compared you to a slave owner. And he's going to be like, bleep you. Get out of here. For a backup quarterback, get out of here. And I get it. I get that.
Right. I think a lot of people get that. I certainly get that. The only thing I would say on the other side of that is because I was kind of put off by this. You need Colin Kaepernick to fly into your building, and you need Colin Kaepernick to sit in your office and convince you that he wants to play football because he hasn't said publicly that he doesn't want to play.
Right. Well, I understand. You want to make
sure he wants to play football?
I understand wanting to meet him before you sign him and invest in him and just get his thoughts on things.
Okay, meeting him is one thing. Getting his thoughts on those are entirely different things. You need that guy to sit, an adult to sit in your office and say, "Hey, I want to play football."
That's Ray Lewis's. That's Ray Lewis's interpretation. But a lot of people are asking that question about Kaepernick, whether he wants to play football.
Yeah, I can't blame somebody for wanting to meet with Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick has really complicated all of this because he's not saying anything publicly. It's not even a don't trust the media thing. Put out a statement on your social media platform.
He doesn't have to say anything publicly. I don't believe he has to say anything publicly, but I do believe that there are privately things that he should address before taking employment. And that's what makes me wonder about that entire cockamamie situation that happened in Seattle. What did he actually tell them that made that organization uniquely qualified to take him on say, no, thank you? And is it honest what Pete Carroll is saying, which is they simply didn't want somebody to challenge Russell Wilson too much because the nature of his defense is such that they already get agitated with the offense. They don't need a backup quarterback that is going to be challenging for Russell Wilson's supremacy. I
agree with you. He doesn't need to say anything publicly, but to Stugotz's point, you can't be offended if a team asks to meet with them. If they're not getting any sort of public comments, they need to speak with him privately.
Mike, that is fine. I have no issue with teams wanting to speak with him privately, but if he didn't want to play football, I'm guessing he'd come out and say, I no longer want to play football. This is what I want to do. These causes are things that I want to do.
I don't want to rehash or plow the same ground that we've plowed on Kaepernick. I want to address specifically, A, whether that is understandable to you, that a girlfriend's tweet at this time would nuke a situation. And B, I want to have the larger conversation about her influence on him and him where he's his own man, because a lot of people have reported that when he started dating her, he started believing in these causes more, like they are aligned. What I want to talk about the conversation that happens when that tweet gets sent. Is Colin Kaepernick good with that arriving on the computer of the Baltimore Ravens owner? Even if it nukes his job, what's the conversation like that afterward? What's the pillow talk like? I want to know. I want to explore some of that, and I think there's ground there without plowing the same ground that we normally plow.
Dan Le Batard.
The Dolphins drafted Tunsil, played him at guard, let go of Brandon Albert, who was bought to replace Chris Long, who was taken with the number one. Up, damn it.
Jake Long.
Damn it.
It's all right, man.
Cost me $1.
Stugotz.
That's pretty egregious. I don't know. Should have just
It's his brother. Well, how is that egregious?
That's super egregious because they are not related.
Wow. That's a $5 fine right there, okay. Right out of the gates.
Chris Long?
You confused Chris Long
and
with
Howie,
the offensive lineman from Chicago. That's actually his brother.
So the correction made it worse. I should have just shut up.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Number of things going on inside and outside the world of sports. The Red Sox are cheating with their Apple devices.
But it's only considered cheating because they're using the Apple devices. Otherwise, it's fine.
That's right. You can steal signs, but just don't do it with your Apple Watches. The Red Sox and Yankees are having that back and forth. Stugotz is negotiating feverishly via text to book his Sunday show. What am I allowed to say there without betraying any confidences about what you were doing during the break? Smoke break with Mikey C. Do you not remember what it is that we were talking about?
I do. I'm just not certain if we should be talking about it. That's all.
Okay, well, never mind. I'm now talking about it. This is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Everything that happens from now on is my fault and my fault only. Stugotz has recused himself from this situation. Perhaps you heard last week that Ryan Russillo got into a little bit of trouble, and I thought it was on-brand trouble. I was jealous of his trouble. I think I would like to be suspended for that. For that specifically, I think I want to be suspended because I think it's funny and it would be on brand, but you got to be corporate, you got to be careful. And so he has got to be apologetic about these things. And Stugotz is trying to convince Russillo. Russillo talked about everything that happened with him. He was suspended for 2 weeks. What happened?
Or he can sincerely feel the way that he felt yesterday while addressing it. That's also an option, I guess.
What happened?
Not just necessarily being corporate.
I told him he did a very good job.
I'm not blaming him for being corporate. I'm just wishing for him that he could see the funny in it. I'm not saying he's done anything. You're surrounded by people. And look, man, public shame is terrible, and you don't want executives deciding your fate with public shame.
I simply sent him a text that said, well said, well done. He wrote back, thank you. And I wrote back.
Don't give out his whole text exchange.
It's okay. This is the part where you want to kind of take off from here. I said to him, when can you start mocking yourself, or when can we start mocking you?
And so, anyways, Stugotz was trying to see if Russillo would come on his Sunday show and, do a Mikey C smoke break. There's a producer. He's got a segment. Mikey C goes and does a smoke break. And that would be a good place for Russillo to have his confessional.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, in terms of crimes, this is not something
that would be the spot.
It's buried on a Sunday morning out by a dumpster on the Bristol campus.
Or his own show.
That's a big exclusive.
Or his own show. Yeah. Like, Russillo can say what he wants on his own show. But larger than that, though, which I think, because
always an angle.
The internet ran wild with this, and ESPN didn't say much of anything about it. We weren't allowed to talk about it, which annoyed me, even though it's a kind of stance that will favor me someday when inevitably I get in this kind of trouble. And the people on ESPN radio are not allowed to talk about it because the network is protecting me. I believe that the network should cover itself the way that it covers athletes.
You would want the network to cover it if it happened to you,
well,
right?
Well, don't get carried away. I look, man, I'd have a degree of shame about it.
Right.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it was just a drunk night waking up in the wrong apartment. Not wearing much clothes. And if those were the details on me, dynamite!
Batard.
Dice Clay was the biggest comedian in America at one point, selling out arenas. And he is god awful.
Stugotz.
Little Miss Muffet.
Yeah, that's right. What's in the bowl?
Funny.
You remember the smoking of the cigarette?
Smoking of the cigarette. Little Miss Muffet. Cigarette behind my head. Yeah. It doesn't age well.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, can you help me because you've got some corporate interests here? Can you help me on what the poll question should be? Drunken, naked, harmless arrest for Dan. Good for reputation or bad for reputation? How can we phrase the poll?
That's fine. Just keep it for Dan.
Okay, good.
We're speaking just hypothetically.
Okay,
here.
Drunk, naked, harmless. Put harmless in there because I don't want people to think that I'm involved in a sex crime.
Yes,
Drunk,
harmless.
naked, harmless arrest for Dan. What's the question? Good for reputation or bad for reputation? On brand, off brand? Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show.
Do you need to ask that question as it pertains to me?
Is it good for you? Is it good for you? Who would it be better for? Okay, ask that as a subsequent question. Who would it be better for as a career move? Stugotz or Dan? Is anyone claiming malpractice on the Andrew Luck situation? We have not seen, I don't remember seeing a quarterback of this caliber admitting that he was hurt last season, his play hurting because of his injury. They didn't handle it then. They kept him out there. They finally handled it. He has the surgery, and he's still not ready for the season. They're going out to Los Angeles. Who's their backup quarterback? I don't even know.
Scott Tolzien.
But they did just trade for Jacoby Brissett, the third-string Patriots quarterback, and Pagano's press conferences were actually interesting in regards to that situation, saying that they got to have Brissett play, so maybe a short leash on Tolzien.
Okay, so maybe Brissett will get in there on Sunday. And, of course, for the Patriots, Philip Dorsett will have 3 touchdowns, all of them longer than 70 yards for the Patriots.
In one game, you're saying, right?
Yes.
First half.
Maybe a half, right. But does that not feel wrong to you? Like that somebody botched the medical aspect of it? Now, obviously, I have no details. I'm just a gas bag on the radio. I'm not a doctor. I just don't have a lot of precedent that I could remember for a star of that caliber missing parts of the previous season, playing injured, getting the surgery, having the whole offseason to recover, and then still not being ready to even practice come week 1.
Well, we have 2 of those situations this season, even though Newton is further along than Andrew Luck. His situation is kind of similar.
Yeah, it's the same.
It didn't make much sense. He just might be ready a little bit quicker than Luck.
It was 2 teams that were going nowhere, were playing their most valuable commodity in a desperation because, coaches are self-involved, general managers. They have the priority is how do I keep my job?
Right.
And that's problematic. Do you realize what a competitive advantage Bill Belichick has through his body of work, that his thought process is never, when making a decision, how do I keep my job?
Right.
Never, any decision.
Never has to worry about
There is no decision that Bill Belichick is making that's like, how do I keep my job? And once that is a contaminant, a pollutant in your leadership,
right,
where a guy has to take care of himself and is looking at best interests in the short term versus the franchise's long term, that's how you arrive. And Pagano is hanging by a thread.
He's always coaching for his job.
Right, but,
always.
But so what do you do in that situation? You better get luck out there, because my job's not going to be linked to Tolzien. I'm not going to have my job future shackled to this guy.
I got to win games. Andrew Luck gives me the best chance to win football games. I'm doing this selfishly. I'm not thinking of the organization. The long term.
You know what?
With this organization.
Now that you've made me think about it, it might be as much executive malpractice as it is medical malpractice. Because this is what happens when, like, they just come off a Super Bowl season and their GM ended up getting fired.
Right.
Carolina's GM ended up getting fired. When people are making decisions for their jobs, that's how Cam Newton and Andrew Luck end up playing for loser teams that aren't close through injury in ways that affect your following season.
Was Rivera at the time coaching for his job?
I'm not talking about Rivera. I'm talking about their general manager, who was then fired.
Okay, right.
I'm talking, these decisions get made as an organization, owners involved. Once you're talking about the quarterback position, doctors, owners, everybody's involved. But something happened there with Cam Newton and Andrew Luck. For both of them for Andrew Luck to not be ready at all for week one, and for Cam Newton to be ahead of his schedule but still not on schedule, like those valuable pieces don't normally get botched.
They do when you have coaches and general managers coaching and managing for their jobs, I guess, is your point. And I think you're right. It doesn't help. Certainly doesn't help. But if you're the owner, don't you step in and say, hey, that guy's our entire organization, man.
You got to trust your people. You got to trust your people. You got to
trust people that doctors, you might fire after the season's over.
You got to trust your people and their doctors and everybody. All of it is such a gray area, though. I really don't feel like people understand how corrupt and contaminated, or how ripe for corruption, this area of medicine is in football. I mean, it's just crazy. The idea that you're taking all these painkillers to mute your body's screaming. Your body is screaming because it's telling you that something's wrong, and then you're having surgeries right and left, and you can't expect the owner and the coach and the general manager to care for the human being as something other than the commodity that helps make them better at their own jobs. And once that's in play, you've got a competitive disadvantage against Bill Belichick, who doesn't fear for his job, and furthermore, will trade Wes Welker in his 100-catch prime because he does not give a bleep. And that, he'll upset his quarterback. He doesn't care. Bill Belichick doesn't care if he's bothering Tom Brady. He does not care about who he's bothering.
At this point, he's earned everyone's
trust.
But
what a great luxury!
Like no one's questioning him. To be able to do your job fearlessly. Yes.
Well, and on top of that, though, and this is an extra benefit, if he's got any such concerns about Tom Brady, he's the only guy in the league with a backup you fear.
That's a good point. I think Brady came out and said he feels bad for Jimmy Garoppolo. Feels bad for him. I think he really feels bad for him because Jimmy's waiting around to play quarterback, and the Patriots haven't traded him, and it looks like the Patriots can keep him around for a couple of years. Do you really think Brady feels bad for him?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not so bad that he wants him to have his job.
Right.
He just feels bad for him. This is how he feels bad for him.
He felt so bad, he'd retire.
No, that's Stugotz. That's the only way to feel bad for him is really. I mean, those are my choices.
Don't sell me on the fact that you feel bad for Jimmy Garoppolo, please. Yeah, I don't think he feels badly at all for Jimmy Garoppolo. At all. Feels bad for him.
Jimmy Garoppolo could be a starter in this league playing and getting stardom, and that's the part that he feels bad about, that Tom Brady is locking Jimmy Garoppolo up in a place where he simply cannot play, and Jimmy Garoppolo, by virtue of being in the film room with him and all these meeting rooms, is probably his friend, and so he probably feels bad about that. And I wonder if this is the better question to me, because he feels bad, just not so bad that he's willing to retire and give up his job, which is a stupid request for you to be making on his behalf.
It's a stupid thing for him to say.
But no,
I feel like it's just one of those things you say because you feel like you have to say it.
All right, well, let me ask you this question. If it was within Tom Brady's power, would he trade his friend Jimmy Garoppolo? Yes or no? If he had the power, and we know that Tom Brady's subservient. He is not LeBron James. He is not a power hunger guy. He will bow to authority. But let's say Tom Brady had his druthers here and could help out his friend. Yes or no? He trades Jimmy Garoppolo if he had the power to help his friend that way and get him to play.
I'd say no. Because he has a better friend, and his name is Bob Kraft. And he's worried about if, in the event he goes down with an injury, Bob Kraft has a very good quarterback to come in and fill in for Tom Brady.
But Stugotz, you trade Garoppolo, you're going to get a lot of good pieces, too. Like Garoppolo at this point isn't Garoppolo the most coveted quarterback anywhere in the sport who might actually be available?
Yes, and I think the fact that he's still there, that's Bill Belichick telling you, this is the guy that's going to replace Tom Brady eventually.
I know, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you if Tom Brady had the power to trade him. And you already said no, but I think that he might. I think you're discounting the idea of that people can be friends and root for each other and have self-interest, and all of those things conflict. And I give you an example around here. You're my friend. Right. If a better opportunity became available for you that would make you happier than this opportunity, I would want to make that happen for you, even though it would harm our show and me. I would want to make that happen for my friend and partner of 14 years. I think you're underestimating the relationship that Brady and Garoppolo probably have.
That's very nice of you, by the way. But I also think you're underestimating how much Brady cares about the guy who owns that team and the guy who coaches that team. And he knows that Jimmy being there gives them some insurance, gives them some peace of mind in the event that he gets injured. Like, he loves Bob Kraft, man. He's better friends with Bob Kraft than he is with Jimmy Graps.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Like, do you really think? I just think it's the right thing to say. Like, you think privately when him and Giselle are having dinner at home and Giselle says, "Oh, do you feel bad for Jimmy?" And Tom's like, "Yeah, I do." And Giselle probably laughs at him. Don't you think? Like, no, you don't.
Tommy. Well, I think Tommy,
you don't feel bad.
Something that's in play here is that I believe the best in people and you believe the worst in people. And one of the reasons you believe the worst in people is because everyone who is a thief thinks that everyone else is a thief.
Thank God this is over.
Buying it. That's all I'm saying, man. You have to call me a thief over it.
No, I'm just saying that you're not buying it because you're largely motivated by self-interest. So you can't imagine.
I cannot. Yes.
Dan Le Batard.
Let's go.
I'm tired of this.
All
the three of them bashing Pat Riley. I mean, LeBron James hadn't won a single thing until Pat Riley was running the organization that he played for.
Stugotz.
And then Pat Riley was running the organization that he played for. And what happened? 4 straight final appearances, 2 NBA championships, should have been a 3rd NBA championship, but LeBron was terrified to post up J.J. Barea in that first season.
Hey!
And what did he do to Wade?
Do you not know how a jack-in-the-box works?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
So Michael Bennett of the Seattle Seahawks has decided that he wants to be a very public advocate. And when I say he's decided this, he's working on stuff with filmmakers. He's working on a book with Dave Zirin specifically about making white people uncomfortable. Michael Bennett is going to take this publicly with his voice even further than Colin Kaepernick has taken this, while continuing to make money and stay in the league and do his job. And he has written this on Twitter. Michael Bennett, the Seattle Seahawks defensive lineman. Dear World, on Saturday, August 16th, I was in Las Vegas to attend the Mayweather-McGregor fight on my day off. After the fight, while heading back to my hotel, several hundred people heard what sounded like gunshots. Like many of the people in the area, I ran away from the sound looking for safety. Las Vegas police officers singled me out and pointed their guns at me for doing nothing more than simply being a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. A police officer ordered me to get on the ground. As I laid on the ground, complying with his commands to not move, he placed his gun near my head and warned me that if I moved, he would blow my bleeping head off. Terrified and confused by what was taking place, a second officer came over and forcefully jammed his knee into my back, making it difficult for me to breathe. Then they cinched the handcuffs on my wrists so tight that my fingers went numb. The officer's excessive use of force was unbearable. I felt helpless as I lay there on the ground. This is a giant man, by the way. This is, what does he weigh? 310 pounds?
He's a big man.
Does he weigh 300 pounds? Is he a 300-pounder? He might not be. He's very big, though. I keep asking the officer, what did I do? And reminding them, oh, no, excuse me, I skipped ahead. The officer's excessive use of force was unbearable. I felt helpless as I lay there on the ground, handcuffed, facing the real-life threat of being killed. All I could think of was I'm going to die for no other reason than I am black and my skin color is somehow a threat. My life flashed before my eyes as I thought of my girls. Would I ever play with them again, or watch them have kids, or be able to kiss my wife again and tell her that I love her? I kept asking the officers what did I do and reminding them that I had rights they were duty-bound to respect. The officers ignored my pleas and instead told me to shut up and then took me to the back of a nearby police car where I sat for what felt like an eternity until they apparently realized I was not a thug, common criminal, or ordinary black man, but Michael Bennett, a famous professional football player. After confirming my identity, I was ultimately released without any legitimate justification for the officers' abusive conduct. I was always held a strong conviction that protesting or standing up for justice is just simply the right thing to do. This fact is unequivocally, without question, why before every game I sit during the national anthem, because equality doesn't live in this country, and no matter how much money you make, what job title you have, or how much you give, when you are seen as a N-word, you will be treated that way. The system failed me. I can only imagine what Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, and Charlena Lyles felt. I have retained Oakland civil rights attorney John Burns to investigate and explore all my legal options, including filing a civil rights lawsuit for the violation of my constitutional rights. Sincerely, Michael Bennett. What do you think of that, Stugotz?
He's 275 pounds. That seemed to be a big sticking point for you. The exact weight.
I made him 50 pounds heavier than he actually was?
Yeah, he's 275.
So that's where you feel safest discussing this matter, by saying
well, you asked, and I just wanted to give you the proper information, and I'm just letting you know he's 275 pounds.
Okay, but you
seem to be fixed on that. You lost track of where you were in the story, and I was just giving you the info that you were asking for, clamoring for, actually. Okay,
thank you. How grateful are you that this segment only has 25 seconds left in it?
Pretty grateful.
Okay.
Looking forward to hearing what you have to say, taking us to the break.
Do you want to give us any other dimensions on Michael Bennett? Any extraneous other facts that allow you to cannonball right out of this conversation?
I would, but I can't do it in 6 seconds, unfortunately.
Well, how tall is he? How tall is Michael Bennett?
He is 6'2".
Cannonball!
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, Stugotz, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Want an easy way to see if you could save money on car insurance? Geico gives you 3. Call 1-800-947-AUTO. Go online to geico.com or stop by the Geico office nearest you. 3 ways you could save 15% or more.
Dan Le Batard.
Let's get it crunk up on them, hop them on them, in the dancer, we gotcha, open the phone,
Stugotz.
Don't need no direction, holleration, so just stand for me, look at it, percolate it, while you're ready, so just stand for me, everybody they're on love, cause you know not ready from.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Got a lot of things I want to talk about here. Michael Irvin is being investigated, according to Deadspin, by the NFL because he's an NFL Network employee, a case that has already been let go by the police department. The police department is not going to press charges. Regardless, the NFL is stepping in and conducting its own investigation of an employee, and this is what they're doing. They want to be pioneers on this stuff. They want to go beyond the law and the difficulty the American justice system has had in domestic abuse cases, being able to prove wrongdoing in ways that take away freedom. The NFL is saying we're going to be bigger than the law.
In this particular case, probably also trying to remain consistent, right? If we're going to investigate the guys playing the games, we're going to investigate the guys who work for us, who are calling the games or doing pregame
but that's
shows.
not the part of it that I find interesting. The part I find interesting is the extremes that they're willing to go beyond the law and beyond merely the playing field to be pioneers on this subject, no matter how much damage it does to their image that they haven't been handling these cases in a way that has been successful. They've been messes. They are tackling messes, and they are taking the stains that come from those messes and are insistent about being pioneers on this stuff, which is a noble cause by itself if I thought they were equipped to actually do it,
right?
To make change, make progress, be able to fix any of this. But before we go down that path too deeply, I'm not kidding you, Stugotz, where what I had to fight back during the break were tears because of how bothered I was getting by how our listeners, our community, the people who are reaching out to us, how they experienced that Michael Bennett story that I just told you. Because I'm going to read some of this to you, Stugotz, just text after text. I just read you the story of Michael Bennett publicly saying how he was treated at the Mayweather fight. And this is what came back to me, and it's just a stream of it, and it's unending. You cannot possibly believe that Bennett BS story, Dan. What a bunch of bleep. Shut up, you, and shut up, Bennett. Shut up, fat-faced Batard. I still haven't found the racists who spray-painted LeBron's gate. This is all made up. Liberal sheep liars. Shut the bleep up. You are being so overdramatic, and so is Michael Bennett. Why is it okay to be racist toward white people? Don't believe this story. Back it up with a police report or eyewitness. Calling total BS on that story, video or lie. I'm just starting. I could do it for the rest of the show. Like that's where we are.
But you're not surprised by that reaction.
I'm
you can't
hurt
be
by it,
surprised.
Stugotz. I'm just hurt by it, man. Like, prove to me that racism exists. Adam Jones, you got called the N-word. Prove to me that you got called the N-word. Colin Kaepernick, look at the starters in the NFL in the NFL this week. Prove to me that he's blackballed. Where's the proof? Prove racism to me. Well, how can I prove it to you if when Michael Bennett comes out and tells your story, you're telling not true? How? How can I prove it to you if every time I come to you, you're going to say fake news? Okay. But what's disturbing about it to me, Stugotz, isn't just that it exists. These are the people listening to us. These are the people who want to be a part of this community. They want to be a part of what we're doing, and they're texting us their thoughts. Like, I don't know if the Michael Bennett story is true, but man, for him to lie about that in this climate,
right?
Like he'd do a substantive amount of damage, and he's an activist who knows what he's doing with these things. He'd do a substantive amount of damage if he were lying about these things. And none of you would want this. This is the part that hurts the most about this. That if it were you on the end of those handcuffs, man, that's not what you'd want to be met with. It's just, if it was you who had been treated unfairly, who comes home after work and tells your wife or your kids or your parents about how you were treated unfairly, you would not want their response to be prove it.
What's an acceptable response? What if someone via text said, hey, Dan, Do we know if any white people were arrested on that same night? It seemed pretty chaotic. There was a lot going on. There were gunshots in Las Vegas. Do we know if any white people were arrested or responsible? I'm just asking you.
No, but Stugotz, I'm sure that this didn't just happen to Michael Bennett, but I understand how Michael Bennett arrives that it happened to him because he's big and black. I'm sure it happened to others as well, but big and black is going to be the most threatening. Like that's what we're dealing with. In terms of why it is that black people feel threatened by police, it's because police feel threatened by big black people more than they do the average person. Like, that's where we are. So if both sides feel threatened, how much reason do you think is going to get through? And, like, I just get it. I just don't understand why you wouldn't listen to that Michael Bennett story and just listen. Like, why would your instinct be,
listen and be like, wow, that's awful. No,
you don't even have to hurt. If you don't want to hurt or you don't want to be empathetic, that's fine. But that's not the reaction I'm getting. The reaction I'm getting by text is, no, let's fight about this. It's not true. And that's not the reaction, is what I'm saying. I'd prefer indifference.
Oh, it's a ridiculous reaction.
I'd prefer indifference. That'd be better. Indifference would be better than that. And I mean, look, man, the reaction was too strong. Man, who hurt you? Who hurt you? Because I know who hurt black people. It was white people. Who hurt you? That you would hear that story and just everything. You think a 275-pound man who does that for a living and feels helpless, you think he's being sensitive and overly dramatic? Michael Bennett strikes you as sensitive and overly dramatic. Really? It's because you don't know what it's like to be on the end of those handcuffs for no reason. You don't. Because if you did, there's no way that you respond to that Michael Bennett story by calling BS and wanting to fight me for reading the story to you.
Payday! Payday! It is payday!
It's just dispiriting, man. It's just dispiriting.
I know it is.
Like, you don't have to agree with me.
Well, I think a lot of people just don't want to believe that this is still happening.
Well, but that's at least in part why it keeps happening, Stugotz. Because this would have no support if it was happening to you. To the person on the end of my voice. Right. It would have no support from you if it happened to you. And I know the police job is a tough job. And I know in moments of chaos as things are being fired, like, the instinct is not to be peaceful and rational. It's get everyone on the ground and don't worry about polite. Polite doesn't matter there. Being delicate doesn't matter there. I get that it's a difficult job. I also get what Michael Bennett is saying, and I don't understand why you wouldn't get what Michael Bennett is saying in a way that makes you want to fight me and tell me to shut up and tell him to shut up. Just weird to me.
Batard.
Coughlin goes on to say that he would like to try and help Odell Beckham Jr. It's not your team anymore, Tom.
Stugotz.
All right, seriously. If you're Ben McAdoo, you do not want to hear that. Get your beak out of my business. That old, red, crusty beak. Like, who is Tom Coughlin to come in? I'd like to reach out to Odell Beckham Jr. You had your chance when you were the head coach of the Giants. Now you're not, okay? Move on, Tom. It's Ben's job now. You think Ben McAdoo wants Tom Coughlin's help? Honestly, do you think he does?
Well, I'm going to let the audience...
He took his job. You think he wants his help now?
Thank you for asking me a question and then just continuing to steamroll.
Sure.
You're always there for me that way.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Get in touch with the show anytime. The 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Why don't you tell people what you just did to me? Right before the microphones went on...
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell people what you just did to me?
You want the exact quote?
Yes. Well, not just the quote, but read the text. Read the text that came in berating me that you read out loud to me.
Right.
And then what you followed it with before giggling and starting your read.
Can someone tell me when Dan is done blaming white people for bleeping everything so I can tune back in? I will tune back in. Just let me know when he's done blaming white people for everything.
And so Stugotz, through a giggle snort, just said, man, white people really hate you, Dan, and then just started reading. Like, the timing was impeccable.
I mean, white people don't like you, dude.
Dude, that's right. He did. He said, dude, I forgot. Yes. All right.
I mean, that you realize that, right?
Yeah.
White people don't like you.
I mean, not all of them. Some of them.
Most of them.
No, I mean, some of them don't like me. I get that.
I love you, man.
Go ahead, continue your read.
All right, get in touch with the show anytime to the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Le Batard Show at Stugotz790. Dan, it's time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts.
I get the frustration of white people. I get it. I read you that Michael Bennett story, in which he tweets out the word equality and then tells you his story of what happened to him at the Mayweather fight, where he feels like he was roughed up for no good reason other than he was big and black. And we're going to talk about it some more this segment.
We are?
Yes, we are. Because I know, Mike, should I let it go? Should I let it go? I know you guys, I'm losing some of the shipping container. Roy's right here with me.
I'm trying to stay engaged, man. I really am. I'm doing my best.
Well, I know a lot of people out there are saying what you were saying during the break, which is that they're writing in saying, man, white people are feeling like we're not all bad. We're not all bad. Stop it. We're not all bad. And I'm just like looking at you and saying, while you're yelling at me, we're not all bad. Welcome to the world of black people. We're not all bad. Stop shooting us. We're not all bad. And now white people are, we're not all bad. Okay. Good talk. Going to get a lot accomplished that way. I know you're not all bad. I'm not even blaming white people for anything.
Right.
Although racism is kind of on them.
Right. Well, this one guy feels like you are blaming white people for everything.
Okay. Well, that happens a lot. And I don't want to get stuck in the mud here. So let's move the subject on to lighter things, so to speak. We've got Joe Sheehan on with us later in the show. Joe Sheehan loves baseball, but says baseball is largely unwatchable now, that it's just everybody standing around and with the occasional home run. And so we're going to talk to Joe Sheehan. He loves baseball, but everything that he wrote in that column of his on Slate was correct. Adam Schefter going to join us at noon to talk about other injustices, like why it is that football doesn't have more bye weeks. Wouldn't you be down for football having 6 or 7 bye weeks for each team and then going to March or April?
Where you're extending the season at.
Would love that.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Better quality football.
Yes.
Longer season.
Yeah.
You stagger the schedule in that. I still get my fix every week of games. Yeah, I would love it. It'd be awesome. I think there would be more money in it for the league, too. You see what's happening with the NBA, where they're only off essentially for 1 month, and they're in the news cycle all year. It would only help the NFL.
But why? I'm interested in talking to Adam Schefter about this. Why wouldn't the NFL go to more bye weeks? In fact, can you prepare him for that question? Can you guys text him that I'm going to ask him that, so that I don't want to just blindside him and he doesn't know the answer off the top of his head? And so I want him to be able to answer that question as to why you wouldn't. What are the drawbacks? We were talking about the Miami Dolphins and Tampa Bay Bucks have lost their bye week. They're not playing this weekend. They are both had bye weeks week 11, so now they're going to play each other in week 11. And they just simply don't get a bye week. We all know the bye week is healthier for the players.
Right.
Allows them to recoup.
I'm trying to think of any potential drawbacks from doing that. Other than upsetting some of the other leagues, because you're extending America's most popular sport out even further than it already is. I can't think of any other. Like, I can't think of a single drawback from the NFL.
I'm sure there are. Otherwise, they would.
But you're getting better quality football, and your season is lasting longer.
But it would make them a lot. It would make them a lot of money if their season is lasting longer. They'd have to pay people more, but they'd also be making more money.
And it's from a PR standpoint, it's an actual thing that they would be doing that shows they actually care about player safety.
No, but we have to be missing something here. There has to be a very simple reason that this has not happened. Because if you're talking about player safety and greed, they could make that happen. There has to be something we're missing.
How much more would you have to pay them, though? You're paying them still for 16 games. I understand maybe additional practices, but that doesn't seem too difficult.
Well, there are ways to do this. That's the other thing. With the number of people who get hurt in practice, my guess is that you could lessen the amount of training camp that they have and just give them more games and more bye weeks and just less practice.
I could see this annoying fans of specific teams. Like, you give them 3 weeks off. Like, you never like when your team's on a bye week. You have nothing to do that week if you're just following that team. And you don't care about the player's safety for the most part. Like, these are people that just want to be entertained. This is another week they get off. How many weeks are they going to get off?
But what if you're telling fans, though, Bill, that your players are going to be healthier, that the quality of football is going to be better?
And you're going to get a longer season. Who doesn't want a longer football season?
I do hate the bye week. Like, I understand what Bill is saying. No one likes the bye week. You don't like when your team's not playing.
Yeah, you're giving them 4 or 5 weeks off a season. You're going to get annoyed with that.
I know that you're going to get annoyed with that, but if your interest is player safety above all else, it's what they need to be doing. Because if you're giving them 1 week, you are conceding to us that this is something that their body needs occasionally, and you're conceding to us that you're not giving it to them enough.
No, but this is from the perspective of a fan that doesn't care about player safety. They just want to be entertained, which is how a lot of people view it. Like, they separate player safety and my entertainment. Like, sports is just fun for me. I don't care what happens to people.
Let me ask you, I guess the way that I would broach those fans is this way. Is the hardship of sitting out 4 or 5 NFL Sundays smaller than the benefit of having a football season that is now 2 months longer? Is whatever it is that you suffer in delaying your gratification of that week, you're getting it on the back end. It's not fewer football games. It's the same number of football games. It's just some Sundays in the middle that you're going to miss football.
It'll feel like more football because you're staggering the bye weeks. And most people at this point, they care about fantasy teams more than their own teams.
Can you guys call Dominique Foxworth or someone? Someone's got to have an answer to me that this makes too much sense. There has to be something that's a very obvious roadblock in this that we're missing. Because when greed, if I can make the players healthier and make you more money and make your sport more popular, there's got to be something that's stopping all of those things from happening.
I don't think there is. I really don't. Like, I can't think of a single thing.
Okay, you've said that a couple of times. But you're extending it helpful. Let's just go to break. Oh,
I had a great take there.
You did? When did you give it the 2 or 3 times that you said there's no answer to this?
You got to stick around to hear where I'm taking the conversation, and you did it, and therefore you missed it. That was straight talk.
You don't have anything.
Well,
I'm calling your bluff.
No.
Let's hear the great take now.
It's less Sundays. It's less Sundays I have to spend with my wife and my kids. That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage of America's largest and most dependable 4G.
Did I just hear the paper shake on me because you were pleased with the delivery of that line?
The NFL is a funny thing, man. For some reason, I get a complete pass on Sunday. My wife lets me do whatever I want. You take the Jets and the NFL away from me, and suddenly I have to hang out with her. That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage of America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
Batard.
What did I do today? I didn't blame white people for anything. Is it because I said, can you imagine if Cam Newton did Carson Palmer's sideline dance?
Could have been that. Could have been, body of work, lifetime achievement.
Stugotz.
Well, I didn't do anything today.
Yet.
Give me time. I got 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Before I could blame white people for something.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Man, I've got a lot on my plate right now, so just give me a second as I try to get through all of it, Stugotz.
Okay, I'll give you all the time you need, man.
Thank you, sir.
Is it serious stuff?
I'm going in and out, okay?
Okay.
Chris Mortensen just wrote the show, and he says that in the past 10 to 15 years, and let me stop here for a second, and we are really happy that Chris Mortensen is back and fighting on behalf of this network. We love that dude, and so we are blessed and grateful that Chris Mortensen has gotten better and is in football fighting shape again. So much love to Chris Mortensen. But he says over the last 10 or 15 years that they have talked in football about extending football through the NBA All-Star Weekend. So football would go...
It's 2 more weeks.
Through President's Day.
Yeah, because the Super Bowl is the first weekend of February right now.
President's Day is a day off, right?
You would have your Super Bowl Monday?
Yes. Get this done. Whoever's in charge, make this happen.
All right, before we get into your take, continue with what Moore was saying.
Sorry.
You want Super Bowl Monday to be a national holiday.
Right.
Ahead of yourself a little bit.
Correct. If not, then just put it on a Saturday night so we can recover on Sunday.
Saturday.
Yeah, Super Bowl Saturday.
There is... Stugotz made me laugh so much during the break. He's been on fire today because he's filled with hurricane fear and he's off and he's really in an unusual space. But Stugotz just had, and Mort, you can learn something from this if you're listening, okay? Because Stugotz just had during the break, he was able to really solidify why it is that Colin Kaepernick did not sign in Seattle, and he was doing a Pete Carroll impersonation. And I wish that reporters could report this way. More, you need to learn how to do this a little bit better. Stugotz crystal clear explained why it is Colin Kaepernick is not in Seattle. Are you ready for it? Because this is...
You're going to do it for me?
Yeah, I'm going to do the impersonation of Stugotz being Pete Carroll, and this is how news should be broken from now on. That Pete Carroll, upon meeting Colin Kaepernick, simply said, wait a minute, you think I'm going to put this guy next to Michael Bennett? I'm going to put those guys together when my starting quarterback is Russell Wilson? Like, no, I'm not putting those two guys. No, I'm not. No. That's the explanation.
It's the reason he's not a Seahawk.
That is the explanation.
Roy is giving me an ovation here. Thank you, Roy.
That is what happened. I'm not putting Michael Bennett next to... Because Colin Kaepernick has just retweeted what Michael Bennett... Colin Kaepernick isn't saying very much, but he just retweeted everything that's happening with Michael Bennett.
Yes.
And Pete Carroll's sitting there looking at it, and he's going, See? This is why I got some guy out of the Arena League as my backup. I can't have this.
Now, if that guy gets hurt, Russell Wilson... Maybe I can have this. Yes.
Maybe I'll come and be willing to take on whatever hardship comes from that. But Stugotz isn't always on fire. And I can't believe, man, you guys are so often on top of this. You know who noticed this, Mike? Stugotz is the one who noticed this. You guys usually will notice anything counterfeit that Stugotz does, anything insincere, anything inconsistent. But on this one, the sound we're about to play for you, see, Mike, how good is this sound? Is the sound good? Because Stugotz is the one who pointed this out. None of us heard it.
It's pretty Stugotzian.
All right. Well, Stugotz, let me give you no
Might
more.
Set a record for Stugotz.
All right.
I think it's perfect, right? I mean, for me, it's perfect.
All right. Well, I don't know how perfect it is, but let's listen to it because I did not notice this. I had Stugotz replaying it for me between Pete Carroll impersonations during the break where he was sort of, enough. Show him. Let's hear the great take now.
It's less Sundays I have to spend with my wife and my kids. The NFL is a funny thing, man. For some reason, I get a complete pass on Sunday. My wife lets me do whatever I want. You take the Jets and the NFL away from me, and suddenly I have to hang out with her.
Doesn't get any better than the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz here for Select Quote. Listen, the most important things in my life, my family, my wife, and my kids.
That is startling. How you go from my family doesn't want me around to a live read where you say the most important thing in your life is my wife and my family. It was the next thing he said after saying that his wife doesn't want him around. That's amazing.
Thank you.
But I don't mean it as a compliment.
Felt like what? It's good work by me.
The Michael Bennett thing is getting some legs, and now the media is running with it. And I think if you're just joining us and don't know what we're talking about, Michael Bennett said that he was roughed up at the Mayweather fight on Twitter while calling for equality. He says he's going to get so he's legaled up already, and he gave the details of how it is that he felt while being handcuffed and roughed up by police. And he is saying that is happening because he is black and only because he's black. And so we will see where this heads. But like I told you, Michael Bennett is working on big stuff. And so I'm guessing that many of you who are already inclined to believe that he's making all of this up will now jump to the next place, which is he's trying to get attention to the cause, or he's doing things. He's working on documentaries and books. Like Michael Bennett wants to do the same stuff that Colin Kaepernick is doing. I know the authors and the people that he's working with on big projects where he wants to be a voice on race issues. So that'll be the next thing that people get armed with. The first thing, when we read the story initially, was a whole lot of people writing in, that didn't happen. That's a bull bleep story. That's not the way that happened. Prove it. Make it up. You're making it up. Give me some eyewitnesses. Then the next step will be, he's over dramatizing it and making it a civil case or making it a lawsuit because he wants to bring attention to his book. Or he wants to, his book is Things That Make White People Uncomfortable. I think that's the working title for the Dave Zirin book. So
people think he's using this to bring attention.
Well, I'm just telling you in case.
Why would he lie about this?
No, but what I'm telling you is in case you want some advance warning, some strategic planning on where it is we're going to end up with this.
Allowing people to think ahead.
I'm telling you that the people who are entrenched on their positions and aren't going to change their mind on this is how they will blame the messenger, because we will get to messenger blaming. Like that's what we always do on these.
How to make white people uncomfortable, working title.
Okay. So that'll be the next thing that you get armed with, where you can question his motives. His motives can't be being on the wrong end of injustice. His motives can't be that it feels kind of crappy sometimes to be black in this country. His motive has to be something else. So it can't be pain. 275-pound man who would kick the butt of anyone listening to this. It can't be that he's in pain and doesn't like to feel helpless. It's got to be that there's an agenda of some sort. That is how you camouflage racism with Blame the Messenger 101.
Nothing in life is free. Time for some ads.
Smear the messenger.
Did you get to everything you wanted to get to in that segment? Because you said you had a lot, and then I sidetracked you with Super Bowl Saturdays. And
I didn't get to any of it.
All right.
All right. It was
You want to try it next segment? Or?
Pete Carroll impersonation, though. Really good. Wait a minute. You think I'm going to put this guy? This guy? No.
Mort, that guy's my quarterback?
Mort, you need to start reporting like that. Your whole professional journalistic way of doing it, it's a dinosaur.
Sources are telling me Pete Carroll did not want to put that guy with that guy when that guy's his quarterback?
Not in the same locker room. That's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
Batard.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Awful.
Stugotz.
I mean.
No, he's an embarrassment, man. He's bad. He's not a good player. I don't know what happened to him, because when he was in Portland, he was fantastic. He is not good, Dan. He cost them the game last night. Although they won the game. But had they lost, I'm telling you, it would have been on LaMarcus Aldridge. And the only reason it's not is because they won the game. And I'm still going to crush him even though they won.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
A hurricane is approaching where it is that we broadcast. It is an emergency in the state of Florida, state of emergency. We will not have a show Thursday or Friday. We are being canceled, maybe not Monday either.
Yeah, right now the plan is for no Monday show either.
So that's because we are going to be asked to evacuate, it sounds like, around here very soon. So the storm that's approaching is the biggest they've ever seen in the Atlantic. So no grid of death. No grid of death. A silver lining. Nice. I was searching for George Michael costumes. I was looking for them in the middle as people panicked or looking for hurricane supplies. I'm looking for a shredded jeans and a leather jacket.
You went to a costume store while people were going to Home Depot?
Costume. I just sort of went shopping looking for George Michael. I've got to recreate George Michael for our grid of death, but it's canceled this week or postponed. We'll start it next week.
The NFL has rescheduled football in South Florida for week 1, and the bucket follows suit.
So a texter writes in here, I haven't listened to you guys in a month. I tune in today, and I have to listen to Dan blah, blah, blah about Michael Bennett. Time for another month off. So sick of all this. And I would just say to you what I've been saying on this subject before we move on to other things, which is if you are tired of hearing us or Colin Kaepernick or Michael Bennett talk about racial inequality, then imagine how they must feel. And how tired they must be about feeling racial inequality if you're tired of hearing us talk about it. Joe Sheehan's going to join us 12:30 Eastern to talk about why baseball is so boring and the shipping container filled with frightened refugees, filled with millennials. Millennials have no use for baseball. You guys are, every time we talk about baseball, you guys are talking about ways to change it, things to fix, put ball pits in the outfield. Water hazards in the outfield, make it a putt-putt course.
No one seems to be listening. No one likes those ideas.
No. Millennials just are done with the game as it stands. And we're even more done. Taking me out to the ball game makes no sense if you're trying to appeal to millennials. No sense. First of all, it's done during the 7th inning stretch. I don't want a 7th inning stretch. I want the game to be over by then. It needs to be a 4th inning stretch.
Right. I'm with you on that.
So we wanted to make a new anthem for the 4th inning stretch as we change this game because we have no interest in today's game.
But you're saying that Take Me Out to the Ball Game is a dinosaur, is a song? It no longer works? It can't reach millennials?
The only way to reach millennials with the game of baseball is, I feel, changing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Okay. You got to start somewhere.
All right.
Do you know how long you've been at a baseball game if you stick around for Take Me Out to the Ball Game? An eternity.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see if we rub some sticks together here and make a fire that motivates baseball to make all the changes that it needs to make its median age lower than what it is now, which is death. The median age of the average baseball fan is death. And so how do we bring millennials to the ballpark?
Drag me out to the snore game. 5 hours, I'll never get back. Buy me a craft beer and gluten-free dog. Why are there still old men calling strikes balls? Gather round for a selfie. If you post, make sure to tag my name. 'Cause there's no chance of me sitting through a 9-inning game.
Yes. All right. So a gluten-free dog and a selfie. Very good.
Craft beer.
Okay, craft beer. Okay, I love that you embraced your millennialness and demanded that baseball change its most historic game for you.
That's the sound of the day. It's brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join DollarShaveClub.com today. I love that. The fourth inning stretch.
Well, for all the complaining we do about millennials, they're going to win. Time, damn it, is on their side. So that really is actually a poignant song, believe it or not, hard as that is to believe. But yes, baseball, you better change for the gluten-free selfie people because they ain't going to change for you.
I mean, when you've arrived at a place where Joe Sheehan, who loves baseball more than anyone, is saying the game's getting kind of boring for him.
Well, you need to read the article because what he's saying, it's actually a fascinating evolution in baseball where everyone's evolved so much that it's either home run or strikeout, and that's not aesthetically pleasing.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
What if I told you some stories you need to hear to believe?
It was the rivalry of the hammer and the nail, and Boston was the nail.
You would hear Yankee suck at a funeral, Yankee suck at a football game.
The second we said Yankee suck t-shirts, people just crowded around us and bought them as fast as we could sell them.
The all-new 30 for 30 podcast. Subscribe now on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
30 for 30 podcast is presented by Mini. We're finding the best sports stories for you right now. And to do that, we're behind the wheel of the new Mini Countryman, the biggest Mini yet.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
To find great sports stories, you have to get out into the world and follow your instincts. That's where the new Mini Countryman's all-wheel drive comes in handy. With all four, we can chase down a story in the city, the country, and most places in between. No matter what story you're chasing, the new Mini Countryman will help you find it. It's available now, and so are 30 for 30 podcasts.
And Le Batard. Stugotz. This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I have been proven wrong. I am wrong. This texter is right when he writes in, Dan, I completely disagree with you that millennials will outlive us. None of them have jobs, so they don't have health insurance. One bad flu season is going to knock out about half of them. Couple that with their propensity for opioid addiction, and we will be rid of those pests in about 10 to 11 years. Also, there's now video. TMZ has the video of Michael Bennett being arrested. So those of you who deny that Michael Bennett was being treated that way now have the video, and now you're welcome to move the goalposts. Clay Travis has already done it. He's saying, where's the gun to his head? And then the next thing after that, if video emerges of a gun to his head, because Michael Bennett said there was a gun to his head, if video emerges of that, then you can move the goalposts again and say, yeah, but what did Michael Bennett do before we saw the video? I thought we'd solved all of this with Rodney King. Evidently not.
When can you stop moving the goalposts?
They're not going to stop moving the goalposts. If you want to see what you want to see, if you are entrenched in your position, you are going to confirm that belief with whatever set of facts you want.
Are you telling me if there's video footage of every single detail that Michael Bennett explained in his article, that people will still move it somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Why is it always the same people moving the goalposts?
Yes. Stugotz, it's always going to move. Man, look, Rodney King was a long time ago. For those who were denying that police brutality existed, there was a video that was rather shocking to the people who were denying that. That was a long time ago. Adam Schefter with us now on ESPN Radio. That is a charming segue by me. Delicate and professional as always. Welcoming Adam Schefter into that conversation. Adam, I'm curious. Thank you for making time for us here. We wanted to answer the question, why doesn't the football season have 6 or 7 or 8 buys and just go a couple of extra months if health is a priority?
Well, it's nice of you to give away their vacation time, Dan. I'm sure the players and coaches really appreciate that after working round the clock from July through January, and then have you extend it into March, not leaving any more time for the offseason and the draft, and having them practice in Green Bay and New England and Philadelphia every day outside.
Take the practices. No, what I'm saying is remove some of that practice time and make it game time
and preseason time
and bye time. And so I'm giving them extra weeks. I'm giving them extra weeks off. I'm giving them
and let's give you buys in February and March on Fridays, and we'll have you just work all through June and July during the quietest time in the sports calendar too.
Okay, so I've got to care about the players and their vacation time. Wouldn't the players want this? You're saying the players wouldn't want the same amount of time expended, just extended overtime?
Listen, it's an interesting outside-the-box thought, and certainly I find it intriguing, but I think the league has done this for so long. Like, there's been discussion of extending it, the Super Bowl into President's Day, which I've always thought made sense, to where Monday, when it was President's Day, and you could say it was a holiday, which is sort of like it is in our country anyway after a Super Bowl. Nobody likes to go to work on Monday after the Super Bowl. They would have that holiday. But I've never heard of any talk of extending the season that far. The NFL likes the calendar the way it has it right now, with the Combine in February and all the moves in March and the draft in April and the mini camps and throwing camps in June and training camps opening back up in July. Like, they like to have something on the calendar every single month, and they do that now. And the players' bodies are taxed, and there have been tests and studies done, and they believe this is the best way to do it. That would go against all previous data, and that doesn't mean it's wrong or incorrect. I just don't think it's ever been discussed or considered, and I don't know that they ever would consider it. But it's very generous of you to offer up all that time for them.
The reason I'm doing it, though, for those of you who are just late to the conversation, the Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Bucks lost their bye week. So they are doing the unhealthy thing of playing for 16 straight weeks without a bye week. The bye week, by consensus, the bye week helps heal the body, and the players could use more of them. So because Thursdays are greedy and unfair physically to their bodies, Thursdays are unfair, I was just saying throw more buys in there, and you can extend. You can at least offer, if health is a priority, if you throw some more buys in there for somebody, you're giving them more health. You are giving them more health.
Yeah, no, listen, I understand where you're coming from.
We don't have to argue about it anymore. We don't.
I'm not arguing with you. Listen.
Whoa, settle down, Schefter. Settle down and back off,
Okay.
man.
You-
back off.
you got
I
it,
wasn't
Dan.
attacking you.
It seems like he's trying to tell you, though, that it's never going to
No,
happen.
but I've never seen him this agitated. Frankly, he's being unprofessional.
Really?
Yeah, rage-filled.
Really?
You need to calm your ass
Who is the guy?
down.
Who is the guy that attacked you? That you didn't think you were attacking him? That went off on you. What was that about? That was like a couple of months
That was
back.
Diamond Dallas Page, Adam Schefter.
Diamond Dallas Page. Good catch
Yeah.
there. Good. You're a listener. I like that.
Yeah. Don't compare me to Diamond Dallas Page. Like I'm not doing that on you at all.
I would love if this interview ended with you telling me to bleep off and then hung up. Like if we can get to that place with
Have him
you.
on every day.
Yes. What do you think is the most interesting storyline of this NFL season?
Well, I mean, there are so many. It's tough to boil it down to just one. I mean, the fact that we've got the NFL and the NFLPA squaring off for the third time in 4 years as the season kicks off is incredible to me. You know, we've got a quarterback at the age of 40 who's trying to not only beat the Kansas City Chiefs and the other teams in the AFC East, but Father Time in a way that it's never been done before. We've got a team in Seattle that's put together an incredible defense. I mean, you know, we can go on and on. Like, you pick a team. There's storylines dripping everywhere.
What is the biggest issue facing the league in terms of their back and forth tension that might create a work stoppage? Is it the commissioner being heavy-handed?
You know, let me say this. That's 4 years from now. And I know that doom and gloom is predicted, and I know that the relationship between the NFL and the NFLPA stinks, right, that they don't like and trust each other. And there's bad feelings on each side. But, you know, to say that there's going to be a work stoppage 4 years from now, and the commissioner's powers, it's funny. I find it amusing all the time because, you know, whenever we have a case like this, the commissioner's power has got to be reduced. And then when, you know, marijuana comes up and players are espousing that, we've got to get marijuana legalized. And then when NBA free agency comes, we've got to get more guaranteed money, or we've got to get bigger contracts. So, and now you're talking about more vacation or extended vacation. Like, so what do they really want? Because when they do this next deal 4 years from now, and at some point, Dan, it's going to get done. It's going to get done. What are they prioritizing? Are they prioritizing the commissioner's powers that impacts, you know, a couple players a year? Are they impacting being able to smoke marijuana? Do they want more money? Do they want more guaranteed money? Do they want larger rosters? Like, there's a lot of things that players want. You know, there's a lot of things I want. You know, I'm not getting everything in my
What do you want?
contract either.
Let's go down this path.
Let's discuss the things
what do
that
you want?
want. Yeah.
What do you want?
Because it seems like you have it
Because
all,
it
to be
sounded
honest.
like you wanted to do some basketball reporting, and ESPN gave you that. And frankly, it sounds like you're complaining when you're entitled. Like, it sounds like you get everything you want.
Hey, you got a podcast.
I mean, what do you want?
Yeah.
What does Schefter? Go ahead, Schefter. What do you want?
Yep.
Oh, listen, there's nothing I want. I have everything I
Well,
want
see?
except general peace in my life, right? Like, it's just.
Well, see, here's the thing.
Well, that's
I
your
just
own
got to
that's
this.
your own doing,
I
Schefter.
just got to why Schefter doesn't want the season extended.
More work.
No.
How hard is that going to be for Schefter? We're already killing him.
Yeah.
This company is killing him. I'm reporting it, putting on the scroll. This company is killing Adam Schefter.
My season never ends. I can assure you that. They can extend the season. It has zero bearing on my work life. Trust me, okay? My season just keeps going. It just keeps going.
Guillermo,
That's the way
put
it
on the poll. Is ESPN Daily actively killing Adam Schefter?
You want a great laugh? You want a really good laugh? The first few weeks I was ever on at ESPN over 8 years ago, which seems like 18 years ago, and I mean that a good way, not a bad way. But I was doing one of many live hits, and they were having me do live hits like round the clock. And I was on with Sage Steele doing a Sports Center hit in the afternoon. And I remember I had taken a bite of something before I went on, and like something got caught in my throat, and I could just feel it coming. So if you Google Adam Schefter coughing fit from one of my first few weeks at ESPN.
Oh, please put that on. All right, put that. Google it immediately.
No. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's hysterical, and to the point where Howard Stern still uses the clip on outtakes of the show. And I have somebody stop me regularly, and I don't listen to the show regularly. He's a brilliant interviewer, but I just don't listen that much. And they say, "Oh, you're on Howard Stern again. You're on Howard Stern again."
Can you guys get me the sound of Adam Schefter's coughing fit,
we have
please?
Googled.
Okay, all right, we are
Googled,
working hard.
It's everywhere.
All right,
give us a second.
Yes, it is everywhere.
No. I've got to be on while you play it because it's laugh out loud
all right,
funny.
We will wait. Hold on a
Wait.
second. This is great. We will sit around. Is there
damned.
anything to ask him about?
What's going on with Zeke?
I was joking.
Nothing. It's nice and quiet there. Like, you know what's amazing during the Zeke thing? I know we got this big case. We got the NFL going off against the NFLPA, and I must have been hit up a dozen times every day by a high school friend I haven't heard from in 20 years, a college friend that I once met at a bar. Is Zeke going to play this year? Like, everybody with their fancy drafts was freaking out over Zeke Elliott.
Hold on a second. Stugotz is roaring with laughter at this video that he's playing. I was going to ask you, can you even hear it? Stugotz is roaring with laughter as he watches the video of your coughing fit.
Well, you see him coughing, and again, I don't have the volume up, but you see him coughing, you see him choking, and then Sage immediately goes to A.J. Feely highlights.
Well, no, you just got to play the whole thing from start to end. Because there's an extra
quit bossing us around. All right, we play the coughing video for Adam Schefter next.
Batard.
I see a little silhouette of a man.
Stugotz.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche. Will you do the Fandango?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
So Adam Schefter is back. I've never seen or heard this video of Adam Schefter coughing and hacking.
I've now seen it. I've now heard it. It is glorious.
All right, well, hold on a second. Chris, have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay, had you seen it before? You had heard of it before he just mentioned it?
No.
Okay, Guillermo, had you ever heard of this?
No.
Roy?
No.
Okay, Mike? Nobody?
Was totally unaware this happened.
Okay, well, this is tremendous here. All right, Adam, do you want to...
Tremendously embarrassing, I should say.
Yeah, but now, I mean, you look back at it and you laugh a little bit, right? It's funny.
Well, anything...
No, I laugh. Yeah.
Anything, he already told us it was hysterical. You're not here for that part? Can you tell? He's the whole one who introduced us to this.
I know, and I'm thankful that he did.
All right, Adam, how do you want to set this clip up, please?
Well, basically, this is about my second or third week at ESPN, and they were having me do hits around the clock, and it was the summer, and it was just a different adjustment for me doing that much TV regularly. And at that moment, literally right before, I got something caught in my throat, and I could feel it right before I went on air, but I'm like, I'm just going to push through, and I'm going to go on with Sage, and now you get to hear what happened.
Delhomme has thrown 9 picks in his last 2 games, going back to the playoff loss to the Cardinals. Should he be looking over his shoulder, Adam?
Well, he's really struggled here in Carolina. There's no question. Sorry, Sage.
Sorry, Adam. Take a glass of water there, Adam Schefter. It's all right. This is what happens when we have Adam Schefter on 24/7 here on SportsCenter. You back, Adam? You know what? We're gonna give him a break. Poor Adam Schefter.
No, you got to keep playing because the coughing goes on to the end, even after she's up. There's more coughs coming. I'm telling you, cut it off.
All right, oh, for the love of God,
he is
Schefter.
outraged.
All right, hold on a second. Get the correct clip, and we'll break with Adam Schefter, and we'll come back with Adam Schefter and the correct clip, the one that he wants, not that one. We'll find the other one. He wants another one. Maybe we won't. We come back with Adam Schefter and listen to him coughing.
That's what I want.
And Joe Sheehan next.
Le Batard.
And finally, an unearthed letter from Tupac to Madonna reveals that he broke up with Madge in part because of a comment she made about rehabilitating rappers and because he feared his fans wouldn't accept him dating a white woman.
Stugotz.
Woman.
What did I say?
Women.
Oh, woman.
You always make the singular plural.
I don't know why I do that.
You always make the plural singular.
Yeah. So it's white woman. Bingo.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, we need to get an exercise bike in here and like once a week have Stugotz do a segment on the exercise bike where he's winded at a high level of punishment or whatever it is. We need to have him do the show on an exercise bike like a quarterback getting ready but for the next possession on the sidelines.
Did you say once a week? Because I get pretty involved with sales here with our show, and they've asked me to do this with a particular client who I'm not going to name right now, but they want me to do it once a day. Are you good with that?
Once a day is too much. Once a week. Why once a day? No. This is in keeping with your greed. A guy writes in here, Stugotz, Guillermo, can you put this on the poll? Would Stugotz replace his sausage fingers with actual sausage if it meant consistent ad revenue from a sausage company. Put that on the poll, please.
I'll answer it for you, yes.
All right, go ahead and do the
Some Johnsonvilles?
The sports update, please.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Are we bringing Schefter back or no?
I don't know what happened. Just go ahead and
Well,
read.
someone's coming up on the Shell Pennzoil
Joe
performance
Sheehan
line.
is coming up.
I know Joe Sheehan's coming up.
Well, just say that. Just say that. Because you don't listen to anybody during the breaks and you don't listen to anybody during show.
I didn't know
just
Schefter was
read
coming back for a
Sports
third
Center
consecutive.
Flash.
Here's your Sports Center update. Justin Verlander pitched 6 innings, allowing 1 run on 6 hits and striking out 7 in the Astros' debut as Houston beat the Mariners 3-1. Venus Williams will face fellow American Sloane Stephens in the U.S. Open semifinals tomorrow. If Coco Vandeweghe and Madison Keys win their quarterfinal matches today, it will make for the first All-American set of women's semifinals at a major since Wimbledon in 1985. And finally, Martin Scarelli is selling the lone copy of Wu-Tang Clan's Once Upon a Time in Salawan. Is that right?
We're not laughing at you. We're laughing at video that just showed up on the television.
I don't care if you're laughing at me.
Of Mike Ryan being furious at you and looking furious at you. That's what we were laughing at.
I don't know. You can laugh at me, laugh with me. As long as we're laughing, that's all that matters around here. Unless I get mad and you guys step over
Right,
it.
which happens sometimes. Keep going.
Occasionally, once every couple of years. Here's the Select Quote difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate, but Select Quote shops and could get you up to 15 options from highly rated life insurers for a free personalized quote. Call toll-free, 1-800-533-4499. That's 800-533-4499. Or go to selectquote.com today. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
I think it's safe to say Mike Ryan is mad at everybody right now. Adam Schefter, Stugotz, the weather, everybody. Everybody.
Sorry, man.
And our timing's all off because all of us need to evacuate. Like, we need to get our families, our pets out of here. Like, we need to get out of South Florida. And so everything's a little bit off. Adam Schefter was wrong. There is no other video of him laughing or coughing too much. So we got rid of Adam Schefter. Joe Sheehan is here. He is an excellent baseball writer.
Yeah, and people, listen, I'm telling you, like Waddle and Sylvie's producer out in Chicago, stop texting me. There's a Cat 5 coming for us, they want me to do a fantasy draft this afternoon. I got too much swirling around in my head as it is. I don't need all this. I got them texting me. I got my wife texting me what to do with the dog. There's a Cat 5 coming here. And so it's making it hard for me to focus on the job at hand, to do the show with you. It is. It's making me hard to focus.
$2. You're blaming everything else for your being bad today. $2.
All right, fine.
It's your fault that you've been bad today. It's not everybody else's fault.
I owe $2 for that?
That you're blaming everybody else.
Well,
you're blaming Cat 5. You're blaming Waddle and Sylvie.
I'm not blaming Irma.
You could call Waddle and Sylvie and tell them yourself off air that you can't do their show. You don't need to announce it as if they're sitting around listening to our show. Anyway, Joe Sheehan is here. He's an excellent baseball writer, and he's down on the aesthetics of baseball right now. He wrote something for Slate that's interesting. So let's play for Joe Sheehan the sound of Adam Schefter having a coughing fit while talking to Sage Steele a couple of weeks onto the job.
Delhomme has thrown 9 picks in his last 2 games, going back to the playoff loss to the Cardinals. Should he be looking over his shoulder, Adam?
Well, he's really struggled here in Carolina. There's no question about sorry, Sage.
Sorry, Adam. Take a glass of water there, Adam Schefter. It's all right. This is what happens when we have Adam Schefter on 24/7 here on Sports Center. You back, Adam? You know what? We're gonna give him a break. Poor Adam Schefter.
All right.
The throwback to
Joe Sheehan, your thoughts?
You try to give me the yips, right? Don't think about coughing. Don't think about coughing. Don't think about coughing. I've had days like that. Doesn't Shefty do like 40 hits a day?
Yes. Of television. Yes.
Good clarification.
As Joe Sheehan is with us on ESPN Radio. Again, he's excellent, and I was surprised to read what you wrote, even though what you wrote was accurate. As a lover of baseball, was it hard for you to write that?
No, I mean, I've been talking about this for about 5 years now. You look at the way strikeout rates, strikeouts have really started to eat the game, the way velocity has changed the relationship with pitchers and hitters, and now in the last couple of years, the way the changes in the baseball and the changes in approach have affected how runs are scored. So baseball's kind of gone from a game where running and fielding happens and ball guy, it's an active game, to very much a pitcher batter, strikeouts, walks, and homers game. This has been coming for a while, guys, and the problem is it doesn't seem to be ending. It seems to get a little bit worse every year.
Well, can you explain to us how and why it's happening? Because the Smokes of the world with 37 home runs, you've got the hitter evolving, correct? That's what's happening here.
That's part of it. Hitters for a while now have recognized, we've recognized that strikeouts aren't a bad thing. Relative to other outs, strikeouts just aren't that bad. So hitters have had incentive to sell out for power, knowing that if they strike out, it's not it's not that big a deal versus popping up, flying out, hitting the ground ball. In the last year or so, since the data that MLB collects through its StatCast program has shown that, look, there's no point to hitting the ball on the ground. You want to hit the ball hard. You want to hit it in the air. A lot of hitters, you go back to 2014 with J.D. Martinez. You go back, this year there's been a lot of attention paid to Yonder Alonso. You had Daniel Murphy in recent seasons. Hitters have looked at that information and said, we're just going to sell out for fly balls, sell out for home runs. So that's a big part of it as well. But the single biggest reason, guys, is velocity. We've started developing and training pitchers to throw as infrequently and as hard as possible. And there's no comparable for that for hitters. So as pitchers have gone from throwing 87 to 89 to 91 to now 93, the average fastball in the major leagues is 93, it's not like hitters' reflexes have gotten any better. So that 60 feet 6 inches, it gets a little bit smaller every year.
Huh. Okay, so that's evolution on both sides. So what we're talking about here is basically the skill level has gotten to such an outrageous, evolved place that it's made the game less aesthetically pleasing to watch.
I think so. I mean, and when you get into aesthetics, you are talking about individual preference. And there are people who tell you that they really like just watching the pitcher-batter outcome. Ben Lindbergh, who used to work at Prospectus, and now he's at the Ringer, he talked earlier this year about he doesn't think this is necessarily a crisis. Somebody like me who remembers, and I'm 46, but you remember kind of earlier versions of baseball where there were more balls in play, where we got to watch the defense do more, where there was more running the bases. Kind of feel like that's a more optimal game. Guys, this year, more than 2 of every 5 runs are scoring on home runs, and that just feels like too much. And you compare it to football and basketball, where the evolution of those sports seems to have produced a more entertaining, active game. It's gone the other way in baseball. The evolution of baseball has produced a more static game.
Joe, are you clamoring for more ground balls and running?
More running, at the very least, not necessarily more ground balls. I don't want, and people will throw this at me, right? Well, you said it, guys. You didn't want punting and running and all that. It's not about not wanting the game to be played well. It's about saying, hey, look, maybe the players are getting to a point where we've got to, maybe address some of these things. One of the things I looked at is saying, hey, let's cap the number of pitchers on the roster, which would force managers to, instead of just having a bunch of one-inning relievers, or team, I shouldn't even say managers, say organizations, develop guys that can go multiple innings, but instead of your relievers all throwing 96, now they have to throw 93 because they have to go multiple innings. That's just one suggestion. But when you watch some of the games, just this last week, Mike Scioscia used 12 pitchers. Last night, John Farrell used 12 pitchers. We've gotten to a point now where relievers are used in a way that is driving a lot of this. Relievers are striking out 25% of the batters they face. That's too many, guys.
Because, Joe, I would argue that fans want this. They want this product as opposed to what you're clamoring for, especially younger fans. It's all or nothing. Home run, strikeout, let's move on.
They want the home runs and the other stuff. They want the hammer.
There's an argument.
I don't think.
And I think.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe.
I'm sorry, Dan. I think Stugotz makes a point here. When you look at revenues, when you look at all of the things that you say, is this sport successful this way? Certainly it seems that way. And I guess I'm kind of looking and saying, where do we go in 10 years? If these trends don't change, and if we end up at a 28% strikeout rate, where half the runs are being scored on homers, how attractive is that as a game? And as I say, there's an argument that this has been successful, and maybe this is just scaremongering. I know that personally, as a guy who remembers earlier versions of baseball, I think earlier versions of baseball were more entertaining. And I'd like to see MLB be a little bit more proactive at this so we don't get to a point where baseball is completely stagnant.
Couple of questions for you. This guy is really good. He's really reasonable, really informed, and I hardly ever disagree with him about anything. And I can't think of many people like that across sports, okay? Across sports, reporters covering something where I don't disagree with just about anything they ever say because they come from such an informed place. So I'm curious, though, Joe, is there something about baseball that makes that a lot easier to come by for you than somebody covering the other sports, for example? Is baseball better at quantifying everything in a way that leaves you more informed than any? You don't have a football equivalent, do you?
Oh, I think you do now. I think that the other sports have caught up. If anything, basketball's gone past it in terms of what they can do with the cameras now, and you have that they can measure performance by 5-man lineups. Basketball is actually right there with baseball, and football's catching up with the availability of all 22 data. Football's always going to have more of a subjective element to it, just because it's hard to have stats for offensive and defensive line, I should say for offensive line. But certainly basketball is right there with baseball in terms of data collection. Baseball was ahead for the longest time, but in the last 10 years, the other sports have definitely caught up. There's actually a hockey sabermetrics movement as well.
Where do people get your stuff? Tell them where they can get your stuff if they care about baseball and they care about being properly informed.
You can follow me. I write for Sports Illustrated. I write for The Athletic, which is getting a lot of pub these days. You can follow my newsletter, which is available as a subscription product at facebook.com, Sheehan Newsletter. And for all of this, at Joe_Sheehan on Twitter.
Joe, we're roughly the same age. Baseball used to be my favorite sport, but it's lost me. It's boring for me. And so we've tried to come up with ways to make it more exciting. And I'm serious about this. I'm being completely serious. Rather than go to extra innings, to play, a 10th inning, 11th inning, 12th inning, and have fans stick around for maybe an extra hour, 2 hours.
You're the guy who used to work with John Shambi. You're going to give me this, aren't you?
Well, no. What I want here, yes, I used to work with Boog. What I want is 9th inning, rather than go to extra innings, we go to a home run derby. It's Aaron Judge. It's Giancarlo Stanton. 5 balls each. Whoever hits the most, that team wins. We walk off. We're all home by 11 o'clock. Does that work for you?
Nah, you play the game you play the game out. You play.
It's at 3 in the morning
when they go to penalty kicks. It's 3 in the morning. It happens 3 times a year, and it's fun. And we remember these games. I still remember I was 9 years old at Shea Stadium, and they played the Mets and Padres in a day game. Played 18 innings. Claudio Washington hit a bunch of homers, and then Ozzie Smith won it. And I still remember it almost 40 years later. You're going to remember nights like that. It's a lot more. You remember that more than you remember the shootout or the home run derby. Absolutely.
I'd remember.
Nobody remembers shootout.
I'd remember a home run derby. I also remember Claudio Washington.
Would you remember it if it happened every day, though?
I'd kind of love
cool.
I'd kind of love home run derby.
It'd be cool. Each manager gets to pick one guy. I mean, Bryce Harper, Stanton. That's fun, man.
You know what I had no idea about though, and this speaks to my ignorance. Did you guys have any idea? Put this on the poll, Guillermo. Did you have any idea that a manager was using 12 pitchers last night? Did you really say that? Did you say that 2 managers last night used 12 pitchers in a regular season game?
Consecutive. Socha used 12 on, I believe it was Sunday, and then last night Farrell used 12. The Red Sox used 12 pitchers last night. In 1983, they used 12 pitchers.
Wow.
Like, what is that?
Wow.
What is that? That's absurd.
That's what I'm talking about. All relievers now are built to go 1 inning.
I mean, Mike Ryan just announced, I'm out. Mike Ryan, that's it. I'm out on this. That's ridiculous. What you just said, those 2 stats that you gave were so informed on the idea that relievers are striking out 25% of the men they face. You got guys coming out of the bullpen, they're bringing gas out there, and they're throwing 100 miles an hour.
Mike's making a face like he just drank sour milk. I mean, he's done.
That's an hour of just changing pitchers.
That's right.
Yes.
Sheehan, fix it.
Let's go.
Go fix it.
Yeah, but his fix is more ground balls.
Okay, better than more relief pitchers.
I think there's more contact, more balls in play, more running the bases. Last night, let's go back to that Red Sox game. The Red Sox won that game last night because Mookie Betts made 2 great base running plays. That's what I want to see more of. Instead of strikeouts and homers, I want to see more great base running plays like Betts made last night.
All right, we'll give you that in exchange for home run derby.
Yes.
Deal.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Yes.
Woo! A victory for us.
Don Lebatard.
I'm going to eat my wings with blue cheese, and a lot of it, and I'm going to come in here with blue cheese on my face and a couple of napkins. And too bad. Stop complaining about it.
Stugotz.
No one told you can't eat wings. You decided that on your own. That's a you choice, not a me choice. It was a me choice, an us choice. We'd be eating wings every day. We'd both have blue. We'd be slathered in blue cheese, both you and I.
We'd be slathering it on each other.
Yes, that's my dream.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Update the polls in a second here.
Let's go.
And Stugotz is funny. Just in the middle of a hurricane, we're dealing with a lot of different stuff here. Stugotz is planning ways to make more money.
Yep.
So let's update the polls. We're just everybody's in chaos down here.
So am I.
There's zombies fighting in the street over like a water bottle. There are fist fights breaking out at Home Depots. Irma is going to cause more damage before she gets here. Just people fighting each other than when she gets here. So we are off the next 2 days at least because we might be headed to your city. All of us just scampering in every direction like cockroaches when you turn on the kitchen light in your dirty house. Just all of us scampering all over the country. We're just running into each other.
Yes. I don't know where to go, man.
One of us is going to get caught on a highway somewhere by Irma, direct shot, just stuck in traffic. Because it is crazy down here. I have never seen it like this in South Florida. I don't know if it's Houston. I don't know, the size of the storm.
Combination.
It's
I think
crazy.
Houston and the size. I mean, it's a Category 5 storm,
I go outside, and everyone's having the Anchorman fight. Anyways, let's update the polls at Le Batard Show.
The Twitter poll is brought to you by Upside. Now save big on travel and get a big gift card every trip you buy. You love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. Do airlines keep track of when you view their flights and raise the price the more you view them? 75% of the audience said yes. Which is better, this evolved Stugotz or the old primitive Stugotz? 73% of the audience said primitive Stugotz. Would a drunk, naked, harmless arrest be good for Dan's reputation? 67% of the audience said yes. Whose reputation would it be better for? 57% of the audience said Stugotz. Is ESPN actively killing Adam Schefter? 81% of the audience said yes. Did you have any idea that a manager used 12 pitchers last night? 69% of the audience said no.
12 pitchers.
Nice.
Crazy. Let's just play Adam Schefter coughing the rest of the show.
Delhomme has thrown 9 picks in his last 2 games, going back to the playoff loss to the Cardinals. Should he be looking over his shoulder, Adam?
Well, he's really struggled here in Carolina. There's no question. Sorry, Sage.
Sorry, Adam. Take a glass of water there, Adam Schefter. It's all right. This is what happens when we have Adam Schefter on 24/7 here on SportsCenter. You back, Adam? You know what? We're gonna give him a break. Poor Adam Schefter.
I love the follow-up question with the follow-up cough. A little extra.
You back at him?
Yes. Are you back at him? Let's see if he's okay. Everything seems fine. Are you back at him?
Schefter, it's all right. This is what happens when we have Adam Schefter on 24/7 here on SportsCenter. You back, Adam?
40 hits a day.
In Carolina, there's no question.
40 hits a day of television.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Geico, because saving 15%